Hey everybody, Donkey Storm here, and every time Mythic Plus has gone up on beta, I've absolutely binged it to try and figure out which healer I want to main when Dragonflight goes live. In this video, I'm going to share with you my current top 2 that I've been having a ton of fun with, in case you're still searching for a Dragonflight main like I am. That said, a little context to put this in perspective for you. I'm a Mythic Plus player at the core and not as concerned with raid performance. I also pug a large majority of my keys in the mid-20 range, so I value healers that can keep pug players alive and don't rely on a pre-made group that executes everything to perfection. I look for healers that don't need to synergize with a particular DPS or tank to perform well. If they have tools that can pick up the slack for teammates that mess up, like kicks, stuns, battle reses, well, that's a big plus too. I'm not planning on doing any world first keys this season. I want a healer that works for me, and I'd be willing to bet there are a lot more players like me out there than there are world first key pushers out there. And I'd really recommend those players also search for what healer best fits their playstyle and goals in the game rather than just trying to chase down a constantly changing meta. And of course, keep in mind, we're still in beta and all this is still subject to change. So as the beta has progressed, I've been trying out every healing spec and then more or less eliminating them as I decide they're not for me. Currently, I've narrowed it down to 2 that I think are really great for pug players and maybe everyone. Let's check it out. So number 1 in no particular order is Resto Druid. Despite enduring a lot of nerfs recently, Resto Druid might feel like the most well-rounded healer of the bunch. It's got a really balanced kit for both AoE and single target heal throughput, it can easily heal on the move, and you got a great set of cooldowns to juggle with Flourish, Convoke, and Tranquility. Even after some pretty heavy nerfs, it's got arguably the most impactful tier set bonus of any healer, giving you 10% crit to most of your major heals from the 2 set and a 25% bonus to wild growth on the 4 set. You've also got a nice defensive toolkit with good talents to buff your bark skin and the return of well-honed instincts from Shadowlands. You've also got a load of utility with Vortex, In-Cap Roar, Battle Res, and Mark of the Wild, which is now a 3% verse buff and low-key really awesome. You're also likely the most mobile healer, sorry Evoker, with Wild Charge, Travel in Cat Form, Dash, and Feline Swiftness, plus the ability to shapeshift out of Polymorph and slow effects. From a damage perspective, Resto Druid also has a great profile for Mythic Plus. Even in tight healing situations, it's not too hard to use Sunfire and Moonfire, which you can further buff with the Protector of the Pack talent, and your Nature's Vigil talent literally converts healing into damage passively on a 1.5-minute cooldown. You've got your Cat Form abilities when healing allows to pump more damage, as well as Swipe and Sunfire for big AoE. You're also able to run Convoke and Adaptive Swarm together now, which feels great. Honestly, Resto Druid plays like an upgraded version of its Shadowlands counterpart, and I'm finding it to be an absolute blast to play. The only real downside is exactly that. If you're bored of Shadowlands Druid, there's not a ton of new stuff to latch onto here. As a current fan of Resto Druid on live though, I'm here for it. Also an added bonus in my mind of maining Resto Druid is the prospect of being able to off-spec Feral. Yeah, you heard me. Feral looks awesome. Here's a look at the talent build I've been running in my Beta M Plus runs lately. It's definitely a work in progress, but I feel like the big pieces are there. We're taking lots of familiar abilities like Wild Charge, Vortex, Innervate, Well-Honed Instincts in the class tree, along with lots of Cat Form abilities and Stampeding Roar. The big highlights here are probably the Capstones. Protector of the Pack adds some nice extra damage to Moonfire. Nature's Vigil also adds some nice damage when you're pumping out healing. I messed around with Heart of the Wild as well, but I keep defaulting back to Protector for now. In the Resto tree, again, a lot of familiar things: Cenarian Ward, Ironbark, Soul of the Forest, Flourish, Spring Blossoms, Convoke, and Adaptive Swarm. Circle Life and Death, yeah, the legendary, Tranquility. I've experimented with double Life Bloom style, but I just found it very tedious to keep up with in 5-mans. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Druid talents in the comment section, as again, this is very much a work in progress, but I do feel like all the big pieces that I want are here. Okay, number 2. You probably guessed it if you're a return viewer, but Holy Priest it is. What makes it so good? Holy Priest just rocks at keeping the health bars up. Damage can be very bursty in this dungeon pool, but Holy Priest's chunky single target heals just do a great job at keeping up with it. Whether it's big single target AoE, it's also got some awesome tools for saving people that are at low health, with both Guardian Spirit and Power Word Life being able to bring people back from the absolute brink. Casting Power Word Life on a target below 35% health puts it on a 10-second cooldown, which is absolutely bonkers, I just really think Holy is a great spec if you like people not dying, and as other players are learning new dungeons, new mechanics, new specs, that's probably what they're going to be trying to do. There's no doubt Priest is lacking in the utility department, especially when I just got done talking about everything Druid can do, but it's extremely good at what it does, and it's also worth noting that Holy Priest has some pretty awesome damage as well. The Holy Fire and Mind Games talents coupled with Twins of the Sun Priestess for PI allow Holy to slap on single target, and those plus your stacking Holy Nova talent can keep up in AoE. Like most things Holy Priest, the damage rotation isn't particularly flashy, but it's an improvement over Shadowlands, and you can't deny the results. Also, if you're a newer returning healer looking for something easy to play, Holy Priest is 100% my recommendation, as everything about it is straightforward and intuitive. Also, as a side note, an advantage of playing Holy is also the ability to flex Discipline, which is a very strong spec as well and allows for some flexibility on your part if you're down to multi-spec. Just a quick rundown of my M+ build I've been running. We head toward important talents like Power Infusion, Mass Dispel, and Shadow Word Death. Twins of the Sun Priestess is a nice DPS boost, as is Divine Star, and we split off to the left and grab Surge of Light and Power Word Life, and off to the right to get Mind Games and its synergy talents. In the Holy Tree, we pretty much take everything that buffs our Flash, Heal, and Heal as we head toward Apotheosis, Resonant Words, and Light Weaver. We also branch off to the right to get the Miracle Worker talent, which gives us 2 charges of our Holy Words, and we prioritize damage nodes that buff our Holy Fire, like Imperial Blaze and Searing Light. I do want to give a quick rundown of the rest of the field and remind you guys that I'm looking for a healer to be my personal main and trying to find the spec that matches how I like to play, and I encourage you all to do the same. I didn't really take anything off my main list because it wasn't good, it was just more that I was really drawn to the previously mentioned specs. Paladin, despite all the negatives that were thrown around about it earlier in beta, felt quite good. You got a load of utility including a B-Res now, tons of good instant cast abilities and tools for both single target and AoE healing, and having an immunity is also always an undeniable advantage for Holy Paladin. I would say Holy Paladin is pretty close to those top 2 that I mentioned. Monk is a ton of fun and really well designed, but at times I had a hard time keeping up with big AoE burst triage healing, and despite the fact that a lot of your maintenance healing comes from your damage, the damage itself wasn't really as spectacular as maybe I hoped it would be. I felt like some of the nerfs that were thrown at Monk recently were also a bit unnecessary from an M+ point of view as well. Man, I really wanted Evoker to be solid enough to start off with as a main, but the more M+ I played, the more I kind of shied away from it, unfortunately. I'm concerned with its single target healing, as your biggest single target heal, Verdant Embrace, jumps you to the target that might be in a really bad position or inside a mechanic. That's not exactly bug friendly, and once you're done with that, you're limited to Living Flames and maybe a well-timed Spirit Bloom. The lack of range also hit hard in a couple specific bosses like Kyraka and Urquhart and Laymore. Disc Priest definitely felt solid in M+, and is definitely a lot more interesting to play than Holy, to be fair. Funny enough, it didn't do as much damage as Holy in most situations. As I mentioned earlier, personally, I'm a fan of healers that can heal through a decent amount of stupid, which is not really Disc's strong point. Still, I think this spec has improved a lot from Shadowlands, probably more than any other healing spec, and it would benefit Priest players to give a shot to both specs. Shaman felt solid, but didn't really stand out to me in any particular aspect. It has an absolute load of cooldowns to manage that are all good, and definitely has the throughput to make it through just about any situation that I encountered. The damage rotation was a bit dull, and it seemed a little low on the damage side compared to other healers, and I really think that Vesper Totem is being missed here. So that's where I'm at in my quest to find a Dragonflight Healer main. How about you? What are you looking for in a main, and have any of these Dragonflight healers jump out at you as a good fit? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more WoW content in the future, and check out my live stream Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 9 p.m. Pacific. Happy healing. See you in the next one.